Amanda, welcome to Podcastina.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. I know it's like a long way. We've been chatting for a while about making this happen.
I know. And it just so happened that I was going to be out here in Austin. Can I say where we're at?
Yeah.
Okay, in Austin. So, well, yeah, we started to talk and when I found out you were in Austin, I was like, oh, this could actually work.
Yeah. I always prefer doing it in person.
Same.
It feels so clinical sometimes to do these like remote, which I know you do like a lot of remote podcasting too.
I think I've only done a few of the, what is it called with the Zoom? Is that what it is? Remote with the Zoom call? I did it like a couple times and I was like, this feels too, like, I can't actually connect to the person. So I stopped doing them. And the furthest I went for an interview was actually to Georgia.
Wow.
I was like, I would way rather have that personal connection. And I feel like you get a better interview versus like, it feels like a Zoom meeting for work, you know?
Agreed.
So, yeah.
So for someone that isn't too familiar, like doesn't know your story at all, you escaped from the Kingston Clan. Mm-hmm. What's like the, I guess, cliff notes of what that is for someone who doesn't know at all?
It's kind of a lot.
Right.
How do I condense it? Because there's so many different polygamous groups in Salt Lake City, Utah. I think the number now is like over 40,000 polygamists were counted.
Wow.
But that's like out of a bunch of different groups. I think my group is about hitting 10,000 plus members now. But we, to separate ourselves, because a lot of people think that we're FLDS, so that we wore the dresses like the Warren Jeffs group. We didn't. We were more blending into society because we're kind of known as the mafia of polygamists because we're one of the number one for the tax fraud. And I think that's the main reason why our group wanted us to blend in, was so that we could kind of associate with the outside world, but also kind of be like under the radar. So I don't know if you've ever heard of Jacob Kingston going to prison for the biodiesel fraud. It was like a national news thing, but it was my uncle. He was able to steal $500 million from the government in biodiesel fraud. He's now in prison. So that's just one of the many things that they've done. So they're I would say, to separate ourselves from the other polygamous groups, we're the biggest in tax fraud and like child labor, and then polygamy, obviously, but they all do polygamy. And then incest. Incest is number one in my group because they believe that their bloodline is like pure and direct descendant of the 12 tribes of Israel or the Jesus Christ. So I am Kingston, so I am directly related to Jesus Christ himself. So you're so blessed to be in my presence. But so my dad, he has 3 wives, and the first wife is my mom's older sister, and his third wife is his own half sister. And he has 8, maybe a little bit more than 8 kids with her now. So isn't that wild? And they have one grandpa. So,
I'm trying to process. My brain broke.
I know. I'm trying to do it justice too, to be like, what else did I forget? Because there's so much that my group does. But those are like probably the most like crazy. And as far as the incest goes, like the number one question is people are wondering how there's not deformities, and there are, but they started to do blood testing on the children. So like they would get groups of kids in the same age group and start to line them up and draw their blood to see like which siblings they could marry, which cousins, which uncles. Wild.
Absolutely insane. So with so many of those groups operating under the guise of like polygamy, and I didn't realize there were so many. You said 40,000?
Yeah, but that number was given at the end of what? Did you ever watch Escaping Polygamy?
A little bit, long ago.
Yeah, so I was on that when I first left, and then so the producers were trying to kind of gauge numbers, and they were doing their own research because we were going into a bunch of different polygamous groups. So the number came from probably the end of when Escaping Polygamy stopped, which was years ago. One of the producers had, I guess, done her research and said that it was about 40,000 at the time. So I feel like it's a lot more now. And the order is definitely growing really fast as well, because they definitely, like, a number one thing they believe in is repopulate as fast as you can, because they do think they're going to cover the entire earth. So that's why my mom had 10 kids. The first wife had 15 kids. The leader's first wife had 18 kids. I think the number one in the order, she has 20 kids.
Wow.
To one woman. Yeah, but you're right. So there's so many different groups. And then it's the over 40,000 in Utah. but we are different than the FLDS that everyone confuses us for. Did you confuse me for that too?
A little bit, only because I saw that you were commenting a lot on like the Trust Me doc and
Yeah.
the Sam Bateman story. And I was going to ask, is there any connection between Kingston and like the Warren Jeffs and the FLDS stories?
So there's quite a few FLDS have, I would say a handful, actually, not quite a few. A handful have married in. So they only want the girls. They don't take the boys. Because imagine, like, they need more girls when you're living polygamy. So they've taken a few girls. My grandma on my dad's side came from the FLDS, and so did my grandma on my mom's side. So I have a lot of relatives out there. The Johnson name is pretty prominent out there because I think even Leroy Johnson was a leader before Warren. But as far as like the Sam Bateman stuff, I don't think I'm related to him. We don't affiliate with them, but the reason why I was so involved is Christine and Tolga. I lived with them for a while, and if you watched, I think it was the first season of Escaping Polygamy. There's an episode called Priscilla where we had to get my cousin Priscilla across state lines because she was a minor that they were trying to marry her off. So the only option was to really get her away from them because she was getting thrown into this rehab called Lifeline. They would lock her up. It was a crazy. If you want to watch that episode, I would. If any episode of Escaping Polygamy, that's probably the best one. Priscilla's episode, one of the best. But we were trying to find people to help take care of her in Vegas, and Tolga and Christine volunteered. So then I ended up staying there too because I liked them so much. I was like, damn, I think I'm just gonna live here too. It'll be my new mommy and daddy. But then, as you saw the whole Trust Me.
Yes.
Yeah. So you saw them like pack up from Vegas and move over to the FLDS because Christine's just always been so passionate about helping people up, like survivors, right? So yeah, that's how I kind of was involved. Not really involved with like helping, I wish, but just involved with knowing them.
Yeah. But either way, it's helpful to be so vocal in getting your story out, and for people who are trying to get out of that system to be able to look to people who've already done it as an example and be able to be like, oh, it's actually possible. And I know for a lot of them, obviously, information is so constrained and they don't have access to what's possible and what exists in like the world beyond that. But I think probably as they inch closer to or start to develop those curiosities, maybe, that then being able to like find resources such as yourself that like they can see and learn what all is going on outside of that world.
Yeah, that was a big reason why I was so driven to keep talking about it was I left and then I got on Escaping Polygamy, and then the show ended and I got so scared that no one was gonna keep talking about it, and it was gonna kind of be forgotten again. And as I do believe that because Escaping Polygamy, more women have come out and been doing things like me where they're advocating for their stories and saying, hey, there's help out here, there's community out here. I do think that that's part of the reason why we're seeing numbers rising and leaving. A lot of young women are coming out and escaping, which is awesome, because when I was younger, it was like you could count on your hand how many people actually made it out successfully.
Yeah.
So
what is the Kingston Clan's mission that they tell themselves is what they're striving for?
That's a good question. Hopefully we get some order members correcting me and saying that's not what it is. But when I was being raised in it, I remember believing that we were the one true, kingdom of God upon the earth. So we were kind of like the chosen people. We were the ones that had the opportunity to get to the highest degree of heaven, which was the celestial kingdom. So they believe in 3 degrees of heaven, which is also a Mormon belief, because we stem from the Joseph Smith teachings. That's where the polygamy comes from. But we believed that we had the higher laws, so we were living above the laws of the rest of the Gentiles of the world. And I think that their main mission was that, because they would tell us that, faith is like a mustard seed. It's so small and it will grow. And that's like the order. We're so small right now, but we're going to grow and eventually cover the entire earth. And I believe that they, to their core, thought that that's why the repopulation was so important, because it was kind of like their mission to cover the earth with all of these righteous people that God had chosen, which is what causes the racism, right? They're very They're very racist, even sometimes against their own members. But yeah, I would say that they believe their number one beliefs were polygamy. What's it called? Consecration, which was like you give your all to the Lord. So instead of the LDS church doing 10%, we gave our all. Wow. Which, yeah, they claimed was the true teachings that no one else does, which is like, what a great thing to believe when you're a leader getting to benefit from that. Mm-hmm. Just convince them that they'll get eternal life and they'll give you everything. So it was consecration, polygamy, and was there a third one? I think those are the main things. But yeah, the worst thing you can do is leave the order. But then, so you'll go to hell if you leave. But if you do what I'm doing, which is exposing the secrets of the Church of God, you're going to go to a lower place of hell. So I don't know where I'm going, but that's what they said. It's like a 7-layer cake of hell. They're like, you're going to be here. You're going to be here. Right. There's like 3 layers of heaven, but also 3 layers of hell. Like you're going to the worst layer of hell.
Sounds like a good dip. Like,
I know. But like every time I thought about the heaven that they created for me, I was like, your heaven sounds like my hell. And like, your hell also sounds like my heaven. like hell's gonna be where all the gay people are. Like, sign me up. That sounds fun. But yeah, I don't know if I explained that well enough, but that was my interpretation of it, was polygamy, consecration, and like obedience, right? Mm-hmm. to the law above one another. That's a huge rule they had, as you, before making any decisions that are big, you have to go in the chain of command, mm-hmm. which I think a lot of religions do. But.
Yeah, they do. It's always some guy claims to be a prophet. Right. He decides he's the special one that's getting the teachings, and then he's capable enough of manipulating everybody else, mm-hmm. and boxing them out from access to real information or just any competing alternative opinions and beliefs. Right. And so it's like, well, number one, how convenient, right? Like, how convenient that everyone should give all of their money and that's the way to get into heaven. And then...
Well, and how convenient that you're the only one that gets to have the access to God.
Right.
So now we all have to go through you, and it's creating this perception of, now you need me. Mm-hmm. You can't survive without me. And a lot of these members really act like that. Like they couldn't think without the leader telling them what to do. And that was one thing that was hard for so many of us who left. You wouldn't think that this would be hard, but it was the number one thing that a lot of people would say when I would ask this question, because I've interviewed a lot of these girls who have left, and they said, having the freedom to decide was so scary. Like not being told what to do, like I was told my whole life, that was scary. Like they wanted to go back and have someone tell them what to do, because it's maybe it's the fear of making the wrong decisions, whereas if you just do what you're told, there's no fear of that because you're just doing what you're told. Otherwise, there's accountability.
I want to talk a little more about the incest piece, because I feel like that is just the most mm-hmm. insane part of it. You said your dad married his half-sister?
Yeah.
What's the logic there?
So I don't know. my mom, I'm so lucky that I had my mom, because she was not born in it, and she told me when it was happening. Like she went through a lot with my dad, and she was pregnant, and when my dad told her that he was marrying his sister, she lost the baby. Like she got very depressed, because like imagine your husband comes to you and is like, hey, I'm gonna marry another one, and you're like, what? Okay, who is it? And he's like, you know her. But yeah, she was really distraught about it, and she wasn't shy about telling me. Like when I started to ask her about it, she was very open, and she was like, yeah, I did not approve of it. I was not okay with it. Which is technically against the rules of the church. The polygamy rules are you're supposed to get the approval of the wife, but then they guilt and manipulate the wife into, like, are you really not going to let us go to heaven? Anyways, so she let me know that incest was weird, because I sometimes wonder if my mom had not taught me that, would I have been someone who was like, yeah, maybe I will marry my brother, Because if you're groomed in that, what would make you have that critical thinking? Because when I was super little, I do remember, because they believe in direction and premonitions for your like number one choice and who you're supposed to marry. You're supposed to get like a dream or something. And when I was really little, because they really drill it into you when you're a kid. So when I was really little, I had a dream about my half brother, and I was like, Mom, I had a dream. Am I supposed to marry him? And she's like, no, you're not going to marry your brother. And thank God, because imagine if she was like, well, keep praying about it, sweetie. When you're like 7, you're like, okay. And so you don't know anything else. So thank God that she gave me that perspective. But as I got older and I realized that my dad did that and that my mom wasn't okay with it, then I wasn't okay with it. And I started asking really confronting questions to my dad. And the stories that I got, because I wasn't there, and it was hidden from me for a while. I didn't even know he was married to her for a while. I had to like do my own digging. But what I think happened was she was getting older, and you don't see women 18 and older that aren't married very often. Like they get them married quick because they want them having babies. They want them just to be able to work for the kingdom of the God upon the earth. So she was older, and there were being meetings held with all of these men, and they were trying to decide who was supposed to marry her. But I don't know if it was that no one wanted to or that she wasn't really caring to. Something was happening to where she just was single. And so they all prayed about it. And then my dad was the one to marry his sister. But also, mind you, all these men in the meeting, most of them were her brother. So like, which one wants to marry our sister over here? But my mom would joke. Ooh, you scared me.
He's offended.
He's like, how dare they? My mom thinks that it was kind of like a nose goes situation. Like, who wants to do it? Nose goes. And then my dad was like, dang it. I don't know. So, because I really think that my dad was attracted to his sister his whole life? I don't think so. I lean more on the side that he thinks he really did it for the Heavenly Father. Like, he thinks that Heavenly Father wanted him to marry his sister. I don't know. But it's very common. Like, the leader, if you look up Paul Kingston, he's actually in the there's like this world record of most kids to one man.
Oh boy.
And he's on that. I think he's number 10 in the world and in history, because there's, when you go back, there's the people that had all the concubines and whatever. He has 27 wives and over 300 kids, still having kids to this day. So but of those wives, 3 are his own half sisters and 2 are his own nieces. But yeah, so he's married to multiple sisters and nieces, and then I believe every single one of his brothers, full brothers, also married to half siblings. But it stems from that keeping the bloodline pure. And then when I would argue, though, when I was in the order, I was like, oh, well, I read this verse in the Bible that said that thou shalt not lay with thy sister. Like, right. We know this verse, right? You've heard of this verse. If you're Christian, you've seen it. But then they talk, their combating would be either, are you questioning God? Don't question God. If God directs you to do something, it doesn't matter if something in the Bible, da-da-da. But then there was also this guy named Abraham. Do you know who Abraham is in the Bible?
Very lightly.
Me too. Who cares? But they would bring up Abraham and be like, well, Abraham was a man of God and he was married to his sister. But now I'm just like, who cares? I really I got to a point where I just, if it's genetically doing this to us and there's kids that are being born with deformities, we should care about not having incest. But that's the thing that always pissed me off in the order was so there's inbreeding and incest and it's going to cause deformities and you guys are willing to take that risk for these kids. But then on top of that, we believe in direction from God. We believe that God's directing these marriages. Then why are you doing the blood tests to see who can marry who if right. God's directing it? It all just started to feel like it was hypocritical. But I personally think that it's an ego thing. I don't think there's God involved in any of it. It's just them trying to prove to themselves that they're right, but also who is going to marry into the order. So almost like they know that they have to keep marrying each other or else they're going to die off.
Right.
So. And
they justify it through we're keeping it pure. Kind of almost in the way to tie it to Game of Thrones, for a lack of a better example, of why the Lannisters were getting together with each other, because they're like, well, we're the pure bloodline of this.
Right. I was talking to someone about this today, how they're like, well, it's not natural for incest to happen. And I'm like, then why do humans do it so much? In the royal families that they've done it to the point to keep the right. But I guess it's the logical thing. They're like, well, we got to keep our posterity and our wealth in our posterity. But Yeah, I don't know. I definitely don't think it's a natural thing. I think that when you are groomed to believe that way, you will start to, you know, be like, okay, well, anything for the Lord, right? But for me, when I got to a certain age, I was like, ew. Like, I'm definitely not going to marry any of my siblings. And I also didn't want to marry any of my cousins. Like,
Right.
it got to a point where I was looking outside the church. And I remember asking my dad, like, and I guess I was dumb because at this time I didn't realize that this wasn't an option. I was like maybe 10 or 11 or 12. I was like, what if I married an outside boy and brought him into the order? And he laughed and he was like, no, that's not going to happen. And I was like confused. But I had also been exposed to the outside world. So I think if I had been not exposed, I wouldn't have even asked that question. So, yeah.
In that stringent of an environment, how did you become exposed?
I was lucky enough that I got to go to public school for 2 years because the year I was born, they hadn't had schools built yet. Sorry, is that me?
Oh, no, that's me.
Oh, no.
Dasha, will you text my mom and tell her to not call right now?
I'm like, mother.
You do it from your phone. Sorry. Thank God you're here because she would just keep calling.
So the order created a private school because they didn't want us to be exposed. But that private school at the time only went up to like 4th or 5th grade. And then I started trying to do homeschool. And I think my mom, because she also was born on the outside, she didn't think it was that big of a deal to just let her kids go to public school. So she had me and my sister go up to the east side for this junior high school. She wanted us to go to like a nicer area because we lived in a little bit of a sketchy neighborhood. So at least my mom was smart. She's like, go to the richer neighborhoods. And I went out there and I learned so much so fast. Like very quickly did I realize how racist we were. Not because I was out being racist, but because one of my first friends was a black girl and she was so nice to me. But I remember having the belief that, anyone who's not white is going to hell because they taught us that. Through the whole fence sitter analogy, like they had this whole story that they told us that there was a war in heaven and us white people chose Jesus and anyone who wasn't white was a fence sitter. It's just, I don't know if you've heard that story.
I haven't.
It was such a staple in all polygamous groups, by the way. I'm pretty sure Sam Bateman and all of them believe the same thing. That's why everyone's white over there. They believe that in the great war in heaven, there was Jesus and Satan, and Jesus was like free agency, and Satan was like, oh, we're going to just force everyone to do the right thing. And then us white people chose Jesus, and then the demons of hell that never got to be born chose Satan, and then there was a bunch of fence sitters, and those are all the people who are not white, and they're going to be born on earth, but they're going to go straight back to hell.
Wow.
It's wild, right? So then I have my first friend, and she's like the nicest person to me in public school because I'm all shy, and she comes up to me, and she was super kind to me, and I remember crying when I went home that day. I was like, why is she going to hell? Like it was causing me to really rethink a lot of things. And so every day that I was going to public school was like I kept getting slapped in the face with like more questions that were unanswered. Public school for 2 years really opened my eyes. And then having a mom who also disagreed with the incest and was vocal about it. And I would ask her questions. Like my dad wasn't there a lot, so I bonded with my mom a lot, and I kind of co-parented with her because I was one of the oldest kids. So I was, 15, driving without a license, the kids to and from school, being a parent for my mom because you physically can't be a parent to that many kids.
Yeah.
So I would come home and I would be like, "Do you ever get sad when Dad's not here? Like, honestly, like, is it worse knowing that he's going to your sister's house or his sister? Like, what's worse?" And she would be honest. She'd be like, "Amanda, I just pretend that he goes on a business trip for 2 days.
Wow.
And then he comes back home to me." I'm like, "But what happens when you're pregnant and she's pregnant at the same time? How do you pretend at that point?" But I think they were all kind of slowly going insane. Because do you have sisters?
No.
I was going to say imagine, but I guess you can't. Imagine sharing your husband with your sister. Well, imagine sharing your husband with his sister.
Yeah.
So I'm appreciative that she was very honest with me. But yeah, it was a very, very, very like confusing childhood for sure.
What would you say was like the single catalyst that put you on the trajectory of leaving?
I don't think there was one single thing. It was like moments. I knew that I couldn't trust from a very young age because there were multiple things that happened that made me realize that the people that were closest to me were lying to me. Like my dad flat out lied and said that he wasn't my dad. Because my mom is of the second wife's family, then they didn't want to be like prosecuted for living polygamy. So I grew up watching the first wife's kids call my dad dad, but then when I called him dad, I was corrected.
Wow.
And I was like so confused. I'm like, then who the fuck is my dad? Like, where is he? And to the point where on my birth certificate to this day, I have a fake father's name. Like some guy named Kyle Grant is on my birth certificate because they just didn't want to get prosecuted. And they also, I think it was also to make so the men didn't have to pay child support. But then the state's looking for a Kyle Grant to pay my mom child support, and they found one.
Oh no.
And they were like demanding child support. This is the story they tell us. It's like a funny joke when we were kids, but they found him and he was like, I don't know a Grant, like I don't know these Grant people that are claiming that I'm the dad, because you also have to put a fake birthday. So he happened to have the same birthday too.
Oh, no.
He's like, I don't have any kids.
It's such
I
a
don't
common
know who you're
name.
talking about. I know. Even though I've never met a Kyle Grant or a Kyle other than in my family. But yeah, so I have a fake father's name on my birth certificate. I have my dad over here lying that he's my dad, or that he's not my dad. And then I get older and I realize that it was a lie. And then I also find out that he's married to his half sister, and all these things are just kind of starting to pile up. And then I get to the age where they're trying to get me married, and I'm just supposed to trust that they're gonna help me do that. I had a huge crush on this boy that was from, so there's the Utah branch of the order, and then they also had a large group of members in Idaho that would run the potato farm. And when they would come down for like the dances and stuff, there was a boy that I started to really like, and we started to sneak off together, which is a huge no-no. You're supposed to save your first kiss for your wedding day. You're not supposed to hold hands till you're engaged. There's all these rules on it. But I really thought that I was supposed to marry him. So I told my dad, and my dad was like, nope, like basically try again, try to get direction again. You're getting direction wrong. So I got to a point where I was like, well, why should I trust you when you've been lying to me my whole life? The system feels like it's set up to fail me, especially being a woman as a young age too. I was like, I think God hates women, or we did something wrong in the heaven before we got here to make us be, female, because my whole life is going to be marrying someone I'm related to, living polygamy, having a baby every year, raising those kids to follow in line with the same fate, working for the kingdom of God upon the earth for pennies. Like I knew women who would go into labor and then the same week going back to work. Like that was the life that I was expected to live, and then die. So, and with nothing in my name, like even the homes that they're paying for, when they die, they don't go to their families.
Right.
So I'm sitting there as a kid thinking like, can I really raise daughters, specifically daughters, in this environment? I can't honestly say that I could do that and not be and be a loyal member. So it was just thing after thing after thing. And then they were pushing me to marry this boy who was his mom and dad are half siblings. His mom is my dad's full sibling, and his dad is my dad's half sibling. So I was like,
so he would have been a couple, like your cousin, but through like a few different directions.
Right. It's like I'm like super related to him.
Yeah.
And I also was not attracted to him in any way. And I told my dad, like, no, like you already know who I wanted to marry. And I remember the conversation. He was like, so and so he wants to come forward, but that was like coming forward to tell you the direction of marriage, blah blah blah, which is like one of the first steps before you actually get engaged. And I was like, well, I don't want to. And my dad was like, well, he's on his way to pick you up right now. And I was like, okay. And he picks me up, and he was like all dressed nice and like little tie, and took me to Panda Express, which was like his idea of a nice fancy restaurant to propose. I don't know what his idea was. He was also young too. But I remember telling him, I was like, dude, like we're cousins and I don't believe in polygamy. So, and he just laughed like he thought I was joking. And I was like, I'm not joking. But the shitty thing is, like looking back on how little they thought of women and how like my words did not matter. No one gave a fuck. Even though I expressed to everyone I did not want this, he was still dancing with me. So you have to get permission to dance twice. He was dancing twice with me, which means my dad was like, nope, keep dancing with her. So it was like, no matter what I was saying, they were still going to go forward with what they wanted. It didn't matter. Like, so it got to a point where I was like, I just was so confused too. Like, why do you want to marry someone who doesn't want to marry you? Is this like a power thing, or are you just doing what your parents are telling you to do? So this is like the fate of a lot of women though. They will, if people are finding out that they're trying to leave or they're starting to question, they will hurry and get them married, hurry and get them pregnant. So now they're stuck. So luckily for me, I got out before any of that happened. But sorry, to answer your question, there was a lot of things that led up to it. But I think the final straw was realizing if I stay here, I know exactly what my future is going to be. Even though leaving is so terrifying, it's more scary knowing what my future is than not knowing at this point. So yeah.
Did you have help getting out?
I had run away a few times. One of those times was with that boy. And we were just little kids, like just trying, like, we're going to get out of here. And he's like, where are we going to go? We went to cross state lines to Idaho. And then he got in trouble for harboring a runaway. Like, you can't cross state lines with a minor. So I got sent back home. Like, I had tried to run away multiple times. And then finally, the day that I left was July 25th of 2013. It was a while ago. But it ended in a huge, like, dramatic scene where the leader's brother had attacked me. I called the police. It was, like, so dramatic, and they started to be afraid of me. Wow. I think they were afraid because they didn't think that I would actually call the police and I would actually, like, raise hell. But I was so angry with them that it almost felt like for a while, like, that they had their hand on my throat, and then finally they were like, okay. And I didn't realize how much power I actually had. Like, out until that day, I was like, whoa, you guys are afraid of me? And I was still a teenager. But I don't know if you want to get into that whole story because it's kind of long. But yeah, I think that it took like running away, getting sent back. And then slowly I was like getting more and more suicidal because it felt like there was no hope for a while. And then finally that day, July 25th, it was like, the weight was finally lifted and I was free, which was almost felt impossible at the time. But.
Did you first get out, like when you're first free, are you in Idaho trying to figure out like just how to get your bearings?
I was in Utah actually. And it's weird because like you do feel its weight lifting, but just because you leave the cult doesn't mean that you left the cult mentality. So it really felt like it was me versus the cult, and then it was me versus me. Like it got to a point of like I was afraid of myself. I was bringing those, because your inner voice, I think all of our inner voice starts and stems from it being our parents, the way our parents talk to us. And that was something I didn't understand. And so it was really like a mental battle being on the outside and living with the guilt, living with the shame. So I was in Utah for a while, and I think I got married, less than a year. I got married less than a year later, and this was a different guy. So the guy that I had ran away with, we were just teenage, little lovers. And then we had ran away, and he got in so much trouble. And honestly, I think they pushed him out because they were like, get away. We need her to marry this guy. You're getting in the way. So then he was out. I didn't have access to him anymore, and he also didn't really have access to me because he was on the outside. And then I started seeing someone else, and we kind of left together, me and this other guy. But it was a weird situation because I was 15 when I met him. Wow. And he was 21 or 22. Yeah. So it was a weird situation, but it was also a very common thing where I came from. Right. So I didn't really see it as a weird thing until now. I'm like, that's statutory rape. But I married him, and you can see us get married on Escaping Polygamy. I was 18, and it was also like my lifeline of like I needed I felt like I needed a male in my life to make me feel like I was okay, because the way they made us feel like we were garbage as women, and you needed to ask men for, for permission about everything. And I started doing that with him, and I can't decide if he liked it or if he was annoyed at it. Sometimes I feel like he liked that he was like a dad role for me. I don't know, but it was in the same way of like what I was telling you before. We're so afraid to make our own decisions, so we kind of like look. I've said this on another podcast that I did, where I was like, when you leave the order, it's like you have this you're a dog with a leash, but you lose your owner when you leave the cult. So then you're like, will you take the leash? Will you take it? And that's what I think I did with my husband. I was like, thank God, okay, take the leash, because I need someone to like, whip me into shape. But yeah, so I left, and it was me and him, but it was a rocky marriage. And I ended up filing for divorce from him. So I married him at 18 and then divorced him at 25. So I really feel like I've only been free since then, because as I was saying, I left the cult and then the weight was lifted. And then it was like I got out of this cage and then went into a little bit of a bigger cage. And then after the divorce, I was like, what? Like I felt this heavy weight lift. And I was like, holy shit, like this. So this is what it's like to be free. But yeah, it was a rocky from 18 to 25 was a lot of turmoil. I ended up in the hospital from like mental, like I don't want to say it was mental insanity, but it was like going into psychosis. No drugs, no alcohol. I was just like,
that's kind of a miracle though.
What do you mean?
Go through all that and not end up with either a substance abuse issue or just kind of continuing in different versions of that, of controlling situations, because that's just all you know.
Right.
And you're raised to believe that not only do you not have autonomy, you're not even capable of autonomy in that type of upbringing as a woman.
Right.
And so to find out you have it at that age, like, of course it's going to fucking break your brain.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. There were so many moments where I was like, it really did. Even after 25, I was like still catching myself fighting with myself. And it was like this war with myself of like, I trust myself. I love myself. I've gotten myself this far. We can do this. But then there was the other version of myself that was the order version that was like, no, you can't. Like, we need to play it safe, and we need to do all these things to fit in line, or you can't be doing all of these things because it's gonna jeopardize all of this. Like, it was like this fear, paranoia version of myself, which I'm trying not to shame, because that version of myself did keep me safe in the order. Like, there was a lot of times in the order where it didn't matter what I wanted, and if I did speak up and be my genuine, authentic self, I would get beat or I would get put into my place. So that version of myself was protecting me there, and it made sense there to be like, shut up, shut your mouth, but it doesn't help me now. And so I'm still at this crossroads right now where I'm like, I thank you for helping me back there, but I don't need you over here now. you can go now. But yeah, to finally realize like, oh, I have rights. Like even my first paycheck, when I got my first paycheck, I remember it was like $200, and it was at this shoe store in Fashion Place Mall in Utah, and they gave it to me, and I was like, I get to keep it? And they're like, what? But because I didn't get to keep my own money that I worked for, like that's how much they controlled us. So there were so many moments like that when I left that were so exciting, but then it was also very sad. Like it was like, damn, my family really sucked doing all that shit. But it does make you have a really deep appreciation for freedom.
Oh man. Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah.
So what does that do then for your beliefs now, like your spirituality, your sense of connection to a higher power, if you have one? Like how does that shape finding what you authentically believe?
I've had some weird, I think when you leave a high control group like that, you go through breaking down what you believe and then rebuilding it, and then breaking it down again and then rebuilding it and it gets really exhausting. So when I first left, I felt really guilty for not going to churches on Sundays. So I was like, we have to find a church. I was going to like a Mormon church. I was going to Presbyterian, Lutheran, just stressing out about trying to find the right thing, because I still believed in that like one true church thing. And then I broke that down and I rebuilt it. And I remember one time I was jogging and I was like, if the order's not right, and then the LDS isn't right, and Joseph Smith was a lie, I'm like, oh my God, is there no such thing as God? And I in the middle of my jog, I just like broke into tears and like fell to the gravel and was like having a like visceral reaction to the fact that there may not even be an afterlife. And it was so scary to me, because going from something that they had all the answers to there is nothing, it was so like, it had me in a chokehold for a while. Mm-hmm. But I do have I have a belief now, and I'm not as stressed about knowing, but I have this kind of like, there's a spectrum of it where it's like, those of you who know there's an afterlife are over here, and those of you who know that are not are over here, and you're actually very similar because you both have faith in something that you cannot prove. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of over here in the middle, where there could be something, there couldn't be something, but I do lean a little bit more towards there is something after this, because of some weird experiences that I've had that are just unexplainable. And I feel like I sleep better at night feeling like there's something more, mm-hmm. or like a purpose.
Yeah.
Because it still is kind of scary to think, and then it was all for nothing. Mm-hmm. What's your, I love to hear other people's opinions on this. Mm-hmm. Were you religious when you were a kid?
Not at all. So my background is, we came over on refugee status from the former USSR, from Ukraine.
Oh, wow.
So we are, culturally, we're Jewish, actually. Okay. And basically all the Jews got not so politely asked to leave, like all the Eastern Bloc nations, like late 80s, early 90s, as the wall fell, they were like mm-hmm. kicking out all the Jews. So either you were lucky and you were able to get a green card or some kind of like passage over to the States, or other Jewish people went to Israel, but like you had to get out. You basically like had to leave Ukraine. Mm-hmm. And so we were lucky in that we got sponsored by some family that was already in the States. We came over here, but I didn't grow up, like they were suppressing everything that wasn't, it's like a branch of Christianity. It's like Russian Orthodox. It's like a pretty strict type of Christianity. And if you weren't that, you really couldn't practice anything out in the open. You especially couldn't really practice being Jewish. And so I was just kind of brought up with it as like a nationality thing. Mm-hmm. And coming here, we didn't assimilate either. It was just never really like a priority for my mom. I would say now with my stepdad, they're slightly more practicing. Like they'll celebrate like Passover, you know, they'll just kind of make a family event out of it. Both of my stepbrothers had their bar mitzvahs, but I was not bat mitzvahed, and I just was not brought up with it at all. And I would say I was like pretty firmly agnostic, almost even atheist for a bit while I was like a teenager and like going through my rebellious stuff. Mm-hmm. And as I've gotten older, I've gotten really, really spiritual, and I do believe in God, but not in any secular way, not in any categorized way. Like I pray,
a God in a robe and
in like a higher power kind of way. Yeah, like I was doing 12-step for a little while, and I am big into like manifesting and believing in like the universe. So to me, God and the universe, I kind of use those like interchangeably. Yeah. And so I do believe in like a higher power that's guiding me and taking care of things for me and has like a greater path for all of us, and I believe in karma. So it's kind of, I just feel like I'm floating out there without like a categorical belief in God, yet I have a belief in God, if that makes sense.
No, I've totally felt that God is the higher power, and there's been moments where I'm like, I think a lot of people interpret this God as this all-knowing thing, but it may just be the universe, it feels like. But obviously like everyone has a different interpretation of it. I've also felt like I've tapped into, this is gonna sound so woo-woo, but I'm glad you're spiritual.
This is the place to say the woo-woo.
When I was in the cult, I swear to God, I had moments of tapping into, at the time I thought, I was like, is this God? Is this like an ancestor watching over me? But now I'm like, no, I think I was tapping into my future self, my higher self, because there was moments where I was being like comforted by someone who knew me and was like, you're gonna get through this, and you're gonna be so surprised at where you go. Like you can't even imagine where you're gonna be right now. And so I took that and like ran with it, and it was so weird. I like knew I was gonna be exposing them while I was in there. I don't know how I knew, but I just knew. Mm-hmm. And now I'm doing a lot of inner healing work, like inner child work. I have like a picture of myself as a baby on my phone because it's like to help heal your inner child. And so a lot of parts of my healing is to go back to the traumatized moments and like hug myself through it and gentle parent myself through it. And there's been moments where I'm like, oh my God, is there a way where you actually can feel that? Because I am now going back to those moments and helping young Amanda through those moments. Mm-hmm. And I remember feeling comforted in those moments. By what? I don't know. But now I'm like, I don't know. It could have just been me being like, you got this, girl. Mm-hmm. But also like I look back, like, how did I know that I was going to be okay? How did I have all of this like reassurance when all the odds were against me? And I didn't have a lot of support on the outside. I was the first one to leave in my family too. So I don't know where it came from, but it happened. So I don't know. I love that idea though of the higher power, the universe, and manifesting what you ask you can receive. Mm-hmm. If you are open to it. So as long as it makes you happy too, then
yeah. And I think it's such a personal thing that I'm very anti when anybody tries to push their beliefs on it. I'm like, I have absolutely no problem with any kind of, you can be the most intense branch of whatever Christianity or Islam or whatever it is, but it's the trying to assert something that I feel like is the most deeply personal belief. Like right. I think your connection to whatever your God is the most personal thing. Yeah. And to me, it's so offensive when people try to push their thing onto everybody else. That's where I draw the line.
Definitely tried to explain this in a nice way, but the amount of comments I've gotten of people like, Amanda, they didn't know God, but let me just tell you, God is not like that, and please try to reconnect with God. I'm like, you're hurting me right now. Yeah. Please stop. And to me, now that I'm where I'm at now, it's like, it's not really, it's like whatever, it's their way of trying to comfort me. But that's one of the worst things, in my opinion, that you can tell someone, especially someone who's freshly out from all the trauma that God did cause. Like that's their belief of God, right? And then someone out here being like, but God loves you, just turn to him. It's like, God was threatening to kill me. Okay. Yeah. So
mind your business.
Mind your business. Yeah.
Did you ever have a moment of questioning your decision to leave?
Yeah, but I before I made that decision, I knew that it was either leave and live or stay and die. Mm-hmm. Like I was very suicidal. I was so just like done with that lifestyle that I was like, I can either choose myself and choose to live or die here. And so I actually got a message from someone in the order recently, and they were a relative. And I don't get messages like this often anymore. I used to all the time when I first left, because they're so mean to you when you first leave. But she was like, no offense, but I just can't believe you could just leave your family behind like that. You just like threw them in the trash. You don't care about your family. And it triggered me, and it brought me back to that place I was when I first left, of like, because I remember feeling that guilt. But at the end of the day, the true feelings were, I choose me and I live for me, or I live for them and I die. Like I was already slowly dying in there. I was I did self-harm. I was very just a shell of a person while I was there. So of course, when these members are saying stuff like that, like, how could you leave your family? It's like, you don't understand the amount that I thought about losing my family, and how hard that was. The hardest part was, and in my brain, I had hope that they were going to still be in my life, because I helped raise all of them and I had such a close connection to my mom. I was like, there's no way that they're going to completely cut me off. Boy, was I wrong. Like that was definitely a big shock, but I made the decision and I never looked back. Like I was like, and honestly, it further made the choice for me. I was like, these people hate me overnight because I chose something that makes me happy, and I'm going to go back to them. You just showed me your true colors. You don't care if I'm happy or not. So I made my bed and you go live your life.
Yeah, it's almost like that validates your decision.
Right. But again, it was another one of those moments where it's like you have your freedom, but it comes at a cost.
Right.
And realizing that your entire life you were surrounded by people who never truly loved you. It was all based on conditions. So that was like such a hard pill to swallow. And I had an adopted family who kind of took care of me a little bit after, because when I went to public school, I did meet a friend and we stayed really close, and her family found out that I was from a cult, so they were always checking in on me. And when I finally left, they offered up their home for a little bit and I went and lived with them, and it was such an eye-opener to see how they lived. Like at first I was like, oh, why is the dad hugging the daughter so much? Like, this is so weird. And she would like sit on his lap and they would like sing songs together. It was like, to me it was gross, but then over time I was like, oh, this is like a healthy father-daughter relationship. And like he also, when I would come home from school, because they were trying to have me go to college, and so I was going to college and I was coming home, and he'd be like, come sit down, tell me about your day. And I would, the fear that came over me of like, oh my god, am I in trouble? Like, what does he know? What did I do? Did I do anything wrong? But he was just genuinely wanting to know about me, something my dad never did. Mm-hmm. So those moments too made me further realize, wow, my upbringing was so fucked up. Like, I would cry myself to sleep a lot at their home, to realizing like how much I missed out on. But it's crazy because if you don't experience that, you really do think your family's the best. Like, yeah. I thought my family was the best in the world. And then I left and I was like, they were actually really abusive. But sorry, what was your question? I feel like I'm like trailing.
No, you did answer. You did answer it.
Okay.
It's when people watch things like Trust Me, or my kind of gateway into this was Underneath the Banner of Heaven, the book. And so that like really sparked my curiosity. And I think it's just like so visible how much women specifically are victimized in all of this and are controlled. And I'm wondering what it is like in that upbringing that makes women just almost come up with like no self-esteem, no sense of that they're allowed to do anything. Like, they just become like they're so easily manipulated in those situations. Like, what is that? Well,
they're groomed from childhood. Like, I remember as a kid being emotional when my boobs started to come in, because it was almost like I was in a delusional state until I started to actually see that I was physically a woman. Because that's how young I was to realize like how sad my life is that I'm a girl. Like, I was already jealous of the boys there because it was so obvious that they had more power than I did. And I think that it's just the environment. Like, it's obviously not like you're born like, oh, I don't have any value. It's over and over, time and time again, they keep you down with their boot on you. And then it's not even just the men doing it. Your mom's doing it. Your older siblings are doing it. Everyone around you is like, you know, you're an afterthought, and you're only ever going to be. And so in a way, it is smart for the men to do, because think of it this way, they would have nothing if it weren't for these women. Yeah. And if the women knew how powerful they were, they'd all fucking leave. So they have to create this delusion that you're not worth shit. Because then they're like, okay, yeah, you're right. I need you to get to heaven. I need men in my life to be able to add value. When it's like, no, you're literally pumping out 10 kids, going back to work, paying all of the bills. Like, what the fuck do you need a man for? And when my mom, after I left, and I was like, you need to leave too. She was like, she was on the show and she did leave and then went back. Wow. But before, she was like, where would I go? And like what, how would I even survive out there? I don't even know how to take care of myself. I'm like, Mom, you're doing it right now. Like, Dad doesn't do anything for you. So they really just create this idea that they're not going to be anything without a man. And I remember being like, well, my value is only with if a man is with me, and the status of the man. And then it took so much deconstructing to be like, wait, what the fuck? Like, I don't even know how I completely deconstructed it. I think it was like, it took a lot of therapy. It took a lot of inner work and self-love and healing that inner child wound. I'm still working on a lot of that, but yeah, to be able to have a polygamous cult like that, you have to teach the women that they are less than. Because also it's like, First of all, how can you convince a woman to share her husband and be loyal to him while he's
Right.
fucking around? They have to have lower self-esteem. So yeah, it's kind of a mind fuck. But then you get out here. Then I got out into the Utah world and realized how much that's actually kind of common in Utah.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of women in the Mormon community that believe that you have to marry a man to get your status in heaven, right? And so I don't know, I think it's a bigger problem than just in the order. But the order is just like a really condensed is that the right word? Just a very like saturated version of it, I guess. But you know what I think? I think back in the day, men were like way before Christ, whatever. Men were so jealous that women could literally create life. And they were like, well, we don't have value. like we need to become valuable in some way. And they were like, well, you created life on earth, but God created all of us and he's a man. We win. Checkmate. Have you ever heard that theory?
Yeah, I've talked about that like ad nauseum on this show.
Yeah.
I had, I wonder if we talked about this in the pre-interview a little bit, where I had this woman who had also gotten out of a cult that her grandmother had started. And we talked about how thousands of years ago, before most institutionalized religion, it was a matriarchy, but they try to bury that. And we always talk about, like, I keep repeating this idea that even if a woman chooses not to have children, each woman is walking around with effectively a spirit portal inside of you. Your uterus is a spirit portal. You can pull souls from wherever into the earth,
shoot them out
through us. Yeah. And that's powerful. So in my spiritual hierarchy, I'm like God, women, men, and women should only worship God and men should worship women and God. Like, that's my belief.
And I've seen, in my opinion, the men that I've seen that do worship their women have more, what is it called? Blessings,
Yes,
if you want to call
agreed.
them that. And the men that I've seen that shit on women, like back in the cult, they're all just shitty people and they all seem fucking miserable. So I'm like, if you worship a woman, I don't know, you might get blessings. Just maybe try it. But also you look at too, the countries that are ran by women and how happy the citizens are versus the countries run by men and how much war is happening. And all the people that are talking about how, like, well, how would women fight these wars if women were running them? Well, there wouldn't be wars. Right. You guys are the one causing them. So
yeah, it's the whole, if you didn't have men, who would protect you? Protect us from who?
Exactly. From what? Yeah. So there's this little community in Oregon I just discovered that's only women allowed. Have you heard of this?
This is who she runs this program. Yeah, the woman that I talked to.
No
yes,
way.
Yeah. I'm so mad at myself that I'm blanking on her name because this.
How do I get in there?
Yeah. I will connect you afterwards because that's her project, and that's how I found her was because she runs this woman organization, and I initially wanted to talk to her about that, and then she dropped it on me that she escaped from a cult. So that was like an afterthought. I learned that later.
Whoa. Yeah, because isn't that place like you have to be recommended to be able to go in?
Yeah.
So I was literally telling my other friends who are also from the same cult, and we were all like, how do we get into this all-woman place? It sounds like heaven. But it's pretty small, too.
Yeah.
We'll put a good word in for me.
I will. Do you see a lot of parallels between, like, cult dynamics and unhealthy, like, one-on-one romantic relationships?
Oh, yeah. I used to call it... So I used to do this series on my YouTube channel called Culty Cup of Coffee, and I would go live every Sunday, and we would cover different topics like narcissism and different love languages and love styles and attachment styles. And one of the topics we decided to talk about was like what all are cults, because sometimes there's cults or culty behavior and it's not necessarily a cult. But I think that, and I think I talked way too long about this on my channel, but I truly believe that a one-on-one relationship you can be in your own hell and your own cults in this like belief to suffer for the cause or that I hate. Remember when people were idolizing the Joker and Harley Quinn?
Yeah.
How it's like, look at them, they're willing to like suffer for each other. And it's so cute in theory, right? But when you think about when you're actually in a relationship, let me raise my hand. When you're actually in a relationship where your partner's like, well, how much do you love me? Show me how much you're willing to suffer for me. It's like, do you actually love me? Because if you love me, would you really want to watch me suffer? And why are you getting enjoyment out of watching me suffer? But there's been times where I've been in relationships where I'm like, this is so much like The Order. And it's like this I think most cults have a similar dynamic of like one person holds that power and I think it's probably just all narcissism. And I know that word gets thrown around a lot, but the way a narcissist works is they kind of feed off of their victim. They need that validation. They need to kind of drain you. And if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, it's probably the closest thing you can get out here in the smallest dose, I guess, the smallest amount of people, which is 2, to understand what it's like to be in a cult. And a lot of people who follow my channel have said the same thing, like, I've never been in a cult, but you're describing a lot of the things that happened in my abusive relationship. Mm-hmm. And so it's really just that a cult has figured out how to do that to multiple people. But yeah, I got super obsessed with narcissism and understanding the different types of narcissists. I think there's 5 different narcissists, like malignant narcissist, mm-hmm. and that's like right below psychopath. I got really into all of that because I do think that my dad is a narcissist, and being raised by a narcissist can also...
I think you have to be to want that kind of power over people, right, and to not have any consideration for how anyone near you or around you feels.
Right, and you're only thinking of you. You don't care about anyone else, and you want everybody else to think of you too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that relationships can very well tiptoe into that scary territory. And it was really hard for me to gauge what healthy was when I didn't see it. So it took a long time to even fully understand it. But yeah, still honestly struggling with that one. Like I don't know that I have been in a 100% healthy relationship, but I've each one has gotten more healthy. Mm-hmm.
So and you know what to look for.
Yeah, upgrading at least. Mm-hmm.
Would you still say there's a lot that you're unpacking from your past, like on a regular basis?
Yeah, which I didn't think it was going to take this long. I definitely was like, okay, it'll take like 5 years doing therapy and then I'll just go live my life like it never happened. And I'm like, so when is that going to happen? I've learned to embrace the journey rather than like before I was just trying to hurry up and heal and get it over with. But now I get excited to... So in the past, I look at it this way. Like I was healing from this cult and all these narcissists and all this crazy shit. And it was like a mountain I was climbing, going to therapy. And then I get to the top and I'm like, fuck, another mountain, you know? So it was like dragging my feet. And now I've gotten to a point where I'm climbing the mountain and I get to the top and I get to experience myself to a deeper level now because I get to open my heart up to more. Because in the cult, I really only had so many emotion range. Because if you were too happy, they would see it and take that away from you. If you were too sad, you know, they could beat you. So they would really take you to... You really only had this range and you were kind of a zombie. So now when I heal certain parts of myself, I'm able to look inward and love myself deeper. So each top of the mountain, I'm like, whoa, this is a really cool relationship that I've never had with myself before. And now there's another mountain, and that means I'm going to get to even know myself even deeper. So it's a more exciting thing. Whereas before, like, damn it. But I definitely didn't think it, especially with how much I've worked on this. And like, I've been talking about the cult since I left the cult. Like I've been publicly just dissecting it all. I thought that I would be kind of just like, what's the word I'm looking for? I hate saying moved on because there's been a lot of people that say like, why don't you just move on from the cult? And it's like, just because I'm talking about it doesn't mean that I'm not processed it. It actually means I've processed it more because I can talk about it without getting freaked out. But I didn't think that there were so many things that I needed to go back and heal. Like I was talking about the inner child stuff. That's been such a great thing for me, but there's so many moments from my childhood that I have to go back and heal over and over and over. And so at times it does feel exhausting. but I'd rather be doing the work and getting to see this version of myself than denying myself that, you know. But I think everyone, cult or no cult, is on that similar journey with themselves. Like, because you really can only experience love. Like, if you want to love others and know others deeply, you can only know them to the extent that you know yourself.
Agreed. Yeah.
So you really only benefit by doing that. So, yeah, it's probably a never-ending journey.
I don't ever like to tell people how to go about their own healing journeys, but I'm such a strong proponent of therapy because I've kind of seen, just like anecdotally, people be like, oh, I don't need outside help, I meditate or I do this. And my take on it is that doing modalities that don't involve any other kind of like outside feedback, I think is very limited, because I think like you can only meditate to the depth of how much you recognize about yourself.
Right.
And to me, maybe it doesn't have to be a therapist. Maybe it can be like a mentorship program or a 12 steps or whatever. I think you need to heal in relation to others.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be an outside relation. I think you can't heal in a vacuum. And so when I hear people that like forego getting feedback as part of their healing journey, I hesitate to believe that they've done an effective amount of work.
Right. Yeah. And especially like if I was not going to a therapist and I was just trying to heal on my own, I don't have the tools to even know what that looks like. So I could have actually gone a different route. What's the 12 step though? Is that a specific healing like program?
It is, yeah. So it started as Alcoholics Anonymous, and they literally just have like 12 steps, and a lot of it is based in surrendering to God or surrendering to whatever your higher power is without them dictating or telling you what the higher power should be. It's like up to you to figure it out. But, and I've been out of it for a while, so I don't remember the 12 steps in there exact. But number one is like admit that you have a problem, like give it to God is part of it, doing amends with people, like going back and revisiting it is a lot of it, like kind of admitting to doing an inventory of like where you fucked up if you happen to be the alcoholic. But then there's all these like kind of branches that branched off of it. So I was going to Al-Anon, which is for people who like love an alcoholic or like grew up with alcoholism in their family, because there tends to be a pattern of children will grow up with like control issues if they have a parent who either is like a textbook alcoholic or just has some kind of alcoholic tendencies, because alcohol doesn't have to be present, right? It can be like a person who has severe OCD or maybe even like a narcissistic parent or something like that.
A lot of my viewers say that they relate to my narcissistic parents or my cult stuff, and they had alcoholic parents.
Yeah, because you grow up, when you grow up in an environment like that that's so chaotic, you try to conform to being able to control everything you can, because the delusion in your head is, well, if I can control everything, I can fix this and I can make them feel okay, and then they'll treat me okay. Yeah. So it lends itself to raising a lot of kids with control issues. And so that's why I had gone into it, because at the time I was in close relation to someone who had like addiction problems, and I was trying to control that person, and it was like really impacting the relationship, and it was impacting like my moods on a regular basis. And so they teach you go in there and you do you just listen to people's stories, and people's stories are so intense and so inspirational, so that piece of it is super helpful. And then the other piece of it that's really helpful is you have accountability through a sponsor who you work with, who you like kind of you go through your like inventory of bad behavior with your sponsor, and your sponsor is supposed to check you and kind of hold your hand and help you unpack all of that. So you're getting the feedback element of it. And the reason that I praise it is because it's a free program, and it's a really strong community. So for people who feel like they either can't afford therapy or need more support, like anyone can walk into any 12-step program, whether it's like Narcotics Anonymous or Codependence Anonymous, like there's, or like Children of Alcoholics, there's all these different ones.
Weekly class that they go to, or
they have them daily. There's like daily online meetings, there's like daily, depending on how big the city you live in is, you can find like an in-person meeting whenever you want, and it's just a free room of people who've been through what you've been through or worse, who can both support you, and if they've been in it for a long time and they're at a place where they can sponsor you, they're able to be like that mentor and give you that feedback and be like the board that you bounce your things off of.
I like that. I don't think a lot of people in my world know about that. So I'm going to try to share that to some people in my life.
The meetings are really and some people describe it as a cult, and you can certainly treat it that way if you want to. If you want to go in there and make your whole personality about your 12-step program, like, you can.
Yeah.
But their whole thing, and like literally one of their principles, is that they don't advertise, that it's all like word of mouth, and like you have to want it and come to it on your own. So they'll never try to pressure people into coming.
Yeah.
But once you're there, they're like, welcome. They're so welcome. You know, they just like hug you and love you and accept you.
I could just totally see people coming from the order or other cults, because you lose your whole entire community. But I could totally see them liking something like that.
And I think community is so important. I think I see what happens to people when they don't have any kind of community, but it doesn't have to be religion. Like, for me, comedy is a community. I have like these people that I'm coming up in this crazy career path with that are doing the same thing, and we're always bumping into each other. And like, you need to have a sense of belonging to something so that you don't feel like you're totally just floating through the void.
That's probably so fun for you. Like, all of your best friends are like the funniest people ever.
It's pretty great.
You get to just laugh and blow off steam.
Yeah, it's definitely nice for that. I think probably because like with escaping polygamy and just like all the work that you've been doing in the aftermath of this, you're probably the perfect person to answer this. But if we're like trying to support someone who's escaping a situation like that, what's actually the best way to support someone coming out of that kind of situation?
I guess it depends. Like, there's Holding Out Hope. That's a facility that actually, there's a charity in Utah that physically, they helped me get a job. They helped me get gas cards to and from the job, because a lot of the times most of us leave with just like the shirt on our back. Like, it's a survival thing. And so we have no money, we have no community, we just lost everything. So Holding Out Hope is a great reference for people in need. And then, are you asking like, if you were to have a friend who's needing support from that, what would help them? Is that what you're asking? Or
even just some, because I would even like go as far as to say like someone leaving a cult like relationship or a cult like group, or, you know, it's so easy to judge somebody that's coming out of something like that, but that's not helpful. It's not helpful to like shame somebody into converting to a different way of thinking. Like, what's like the appropriate, like, how would you have wanted to be treated by people that were like first meeting you and learning about what you went through?
Yeah, I think the best, so I went through it all. Like, I remember so many times I would be working, and then like my coworkers would find out that I came from polygamy, and I would see the shift, because they would ask all these questions, like they'd be so fascinated by it, and I would see the shift in their eyes go from seeing me as human to seeing me as a zoo animal. And like, they just went, oh, your dad has sex with his sister, what, you know? And so and then I felt very isolated, because I was like, I can't connect with anyone, because everyone just sees me as this like little jester, you know? And that was I really felt like there was a point where I was like, this is the only way I can connect with people, so then I would be the jester. I was like, I can't stop. But I think that what helped me the most, and what I ended up doing with, you know, people leaving after, is just being able to be that person who can be that support. Like, if you think of the times that you were in a relationship with someone who maybe was toxic or abusive, and a lot of times you're too scared to even talk about those parts, because you are embarrassed, or you are like, the person's just going to tell me to leave them and think that I'm stupid for being with them. The amount of times that just having a listening ear and a person who is willing to be there with you, whether you're with them or not, whether you're in the cult or not, you're like 90% more likely to leave that toxic situation when you have that non-toxic person as a support. And I credit my siblings so much to why I didn't end up addicted to drugs, or I feel like I had a little bit of an alcohol problem when I went through some breakups and was like thrown into the world for a little bit. But because I had my siblings, and they were those supports for me, like no matter what, I could fall back on them, and because they had all, I left, and then my older sister left, my younger sister left, I have like 4 that are out now, and we've created this, like, because we don't have mommy and daddy, so we have mommy and daddy with each other. And we have built this support system with each other where I feel that we've been able to progress and be stronger because we've kind of had this no judgment rule with each other. We have this, we're just here to love and support each other. And it can get rocky sometimes because you're siblings, but at the end of the day, if you can be that person who's just there to be a listening ear and they're non-judgmental and genuinely wanting to just help. I found myself, though, because that looks different for everyone. And a time in my life where I would be like, I thought helping was like, well, you should do this and you should do that. And that's more of the control thing that you were just talking about, right? To be able to just meet them where they're at and just be able to be someone that they can help dissect their stuff with them. But sometimes it's hard. Like when I used to be that for my mom, it was way too triggering because I would be like, why don't you just fucking leave? Like, it's so obvious. And so we couldn't have a relationship because it got to a point where if I stay friends with you, I'm kind of abandoning my inner child, which is the person that you actually hurt the most. So, and by me sitting here having these conversations with you and you defending the leadership and all these pedophiles and all these, sexual abusers, it's just, it became too much for me to have that. But yeah, I think that being that friend that you would want if you're thinking of those times in your life where you were the most vulnerable, being able to be that person. But yeah, I brought up my mom's thing, but that's a different thing. I feel like I would be able to be more of a non-biased support for her had it not been so triggering to be her daughter.
Well, I so appreciate you coming on and being so honest and sharing everything with me today. Amanda, if people want to learn more about what you're doing and support your work, where should they go?
I have a YouTube. Should I look at this camera to tell everyone?
Yeah.
I should have been looking at this whole
No,
time.
it's okay.
My YouTube is Amanda Rae, and we have the podcast, Culture Crew Podcast, if you're interested in listening to that. And then you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok. I think it's the same thing, Amanda Rae over there. But are you going to do like shorts and reels that we can collab on?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Cool. But this was cool to be able to come on here. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for doing the show. And thank you everybody for listening.
Yeah,
Bye.
Thank you for watching.
If you know somebody that would enjoy this episode, feel free to share it with them. And thank you for listening to Galina Ravina Podcastina, the show where I try to be the person my dog thinks I am. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. See you on the next one.